Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how did you know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast. Today is October 2nd, 2022. I'm your co-host, Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Guru. Hey, Dan.
Jen, how you doing? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, too. I'm doing fantastic today. We are on episode number 21, and we're doing part 3 of the awakening of the emotional solar plexus. So,
the gates and what they're doing to us.
Yes, and I love that we're having this conversation. We are getting positive feedback about it, and as we've already established, it is a major component in what's happening on our planet right now. So I'm excited to be diving into part 3. Guys, you know what to do before we get started. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. Share this information out. And I want to put this out before we do get started. You guys drop comments down below. Would really like to get some feedback on what it is that y'all would like to see. Is there a video that we can do to help you out? I love reading the comments and all the feedback that we are getting back. But if there's something that you'd like for us to focus on, let us know, because we would love to touch on that.
Yes, please. Speak up, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm excited about today's show, Jen, because I think this 3-part series on just the solar plex, it's waking up in our world, our struggles with it. Oh God, that's a good one all by itself. Defined or not. And today we're gonna, I would say, conclude, but one never knows if we'll be concluded. Maybe there'll be a part 4, but conclude with the gates that go around the solar plex center.
Yes.
Starting with gate number 6. Because that fires up the emotional wave on all 3 accounts. So yeah, it's time to get that deeper awareness, and I'm hoping as we discuss the gates, we can have our own personal stories of the challenges. I know I'll have some. I'm sure I will. In fact, I know I'll have some, starting with gate number 6, and what its fears are, and what it's doing for us, and how we can level out and become aware of what's happening to us emotionally. Because right now on the planet, that emotional solar plex is just a nervousness for both the defined and the undefined. When I say it's much more than but all too often it's this nervousness. And then you got 7.8 billion people all experiencing various degrees of nervousness. It's hard to not have a nervous, frustrated planet. So even if it only happens, once in a while for a person, they're adding that nervousness to the field, and decision making slows down, right? And the next thing you know, that's what's supposed to happen, but that nervousness helps drive decision making to speed up. Look at what they asked us to do during the whole, corona crisis, whatever you want to call that. They asked us to speed up our decision making.
Yes.
And they're still asking us that to do that.
Absolutely,
Yep.
they are.
Yep.
Out of fear, too. They are hitting the emotional center. That is where they have hit. They've gotten smart. And I bet you ever since that came online, I bet you we can go back historically and start to see that's where they really started to manipulate humanity, was in the emotional center. Because when you prey on people's emotions, it gets them to react out of pressure.
Out of pressure against the awareness of waiting out the wave in time. Now,
Correct.
our nine-centered vehicles are what's experiencing that wave over time most profoundly. It would have been different, but still present, totally present. And it showed up somewhere in between. Ra always said it was somewhere in between the birth of Buddha and the birth of Jesus is where the emotional solar plex first had its first kernel. It first came online, its first glimpse into the Maya.
Well, I was going to say, I like how you did mention the wait. If you have the emotional wave, we're supposed to wait for clarity. We don't live in a society, that we can do. I couldn't imagine working a 3D job and telling my boss or being a boss and saying, oh, wait, I can't make a decision right now. I got to wait for clarity. I'm in a wave.
Right. I make room for that in my office.
Well, Dan, me and you, that's why we work well together, because, I know how you are with your design and you know how I am. And I love that about our relationship and working with you.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Jennifer. You hold a lot of space for me. I know that.
It offers me peace.
Yes. Very satisfying on this end, Jennifer. Boy, we're smiling. So listen, we might have a bit of a traffic jam on here. Just a fair warning. Meg Starkweather, special potential guest, Dr. Margaret Starkweather. She's my first teacher, and she's emotional, and she's got a lot of wisdom to potentially add. She said she might be able to pop on. I sent her the link.
Yay.
And then Savannah let Jake know, and so Jake and Savannah may come on together. And I'm not sure how long Jake can stay. He might have to work and bounce out and do stuff, but he's got that channel of emoting. He's got the 3955. He's got the whole channel. So that's individual. He'll be able to speak to that. So he's emotional. So with all of that, I think I'm pretty good to go here.
Okay.
Yep.
We have 2 different slides. We have, a couple different. We have this one that has all the gates, and then we also have ones that have the individuals.
Oh, look at that.
So it's whichever one you want to go
Probably
for.
this one. This one makes the most sense, because we can easily bounce between full screen and half screen with this without switching pictures. Yep. So I had initially wanted to start with gate number 6. So for everyone watching now, we've been through 2 episodes of what this emotional solar plex center is doing with us. It's bringing us through this emotional clarity process that demands we wait out a wave, and that wave cycles between hope and pain. It comes with nervousness. It comes with fear of. Go ahead, Jen. You were going to say something.
No, just real quick before we dive in, guys, I'm trying to make a conscious effort to put the slides in the comments or the description. So if you can't see it on your screen or whatever, because I did get that feedback that it was tiny, there is a link in the description. Click on that. You'll be able to download the PDF and follow along as well. I'm trying to make a conscious effort to put that in the description before we do the shows so you can follow along. I'm sorry, Dan.
It's all good. No, you need to point that stuff out. So through this wave and through this nervousness and through all of this up and down motion, we as a species have come to the very poor habit of blaming others, of blaming something, of trying to find fault, or worse, just as bad, blaming ourselves, thinking there's something wrong with us because we seem to go up and down. And suddenly on the downside, well, we know what happens as soon as someone's down. Out comes a fistful of, scripts from a fistful of doctors to try and fistful of medicate you, and that's no good. That just dulls the wave itself. So as people become more aware that this wave is to be experienced, the more a lot of this stuff will make sense. But I'm really hoping that as we talk through these gates, it will bring up some of the difficult things. I love confession, Jen. It helps so good. If it hurts, I want to say it out loud. You know what I mean? If it was a struggle I had in my life, I would like to bear that. You know what I mean? Bear it out to the world, because, to be afraid of it is just more bad icing on a bad cake,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be afraid of it is so many people are afraid of their conflicts that we feel emotionally afraid.
It keeps you stuck. The more I've done my healing journey and my shadow work, I'm a firm believer that once you walk through the fire, it's we build up the fear so much in our mind that prevents us from doing it, that really when you get it out or you walk through or you release it, there's the other side. It's so, there's such a beautiful other side to it. There's a release, there's a relief. You can move past it. You're not getting stuck.
You start to let yourself off the hook for it, because as long as mind is doing the thinking, you're on the hook for all the crap that your mind might think, none of which is true. That's the thing. It's never true. So I was going to start with gate 6. So gate 6 in the body graph is the gate of conflict. Friction, it is called. And its subheading is that friction is required for growth. There's no growth without friction. So, and that makes sense,
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, we need friction in order to actually have growth. And that's normal. So it comes with a fear of intimacy. And gate 6 is pointing at gate number 59 in the sacral. Don't forget. So that means that this is the sacral empowers the solar plex. It's the sacral that shocks the solar plex basically awake and into motion, sets it into work, puts it to work, because that sacral energy is sustaining and it pours in and it's trying to penetrate. Gate 59 is the gate of trying to penetrate, and it's trying to penetrate into the emotional solar plex center where fertility is determined. The fertility is determined here. And because of this fertility and because of this incredible amount of juice coming into this solar plex center, gate 6's biggest fear is the fear of what 59 is trying to do to it. It's trying to penetrate it. Gate 6 comes up with a caution, a fear of intimacy, a concern about intimacy, an unknowing about intimacy. So you have it in a defined center. You're aware that you're opened or closed to the intimacy or the intimate moment or just the bonding in general. And you've sort of had a chance to deal and work through your intimacy things. You come to clarity over that over time. You'll tend to, shall we say. In an open center, that's just a wild fire hose of sorts. It's like this, it doesn't know what to think. I have a gate 6. That's the only gate I have in my solar plex center. And the older I got, the more I just steered away from intimacy. And the more people had to really be they really had to care to break down my barrier in order to get anywhere near me. So far, there's been no winners. No one wins the prize. Because I know that I have this, it's the gate of our pH. So my pH is out of balance. When I say out of balance, it's out of balance as it relates to intimacy. Nobody gets in. I'm not available. And that's not stuck-upness, and that's not stubbornness, and that's not game playing. So in our mundane world, you're playing games. No, I'm not playing games. I don't know what this is all going to be, and I don't know if I like it. And so now you're a dude. So I'm a dude. I don't know if I like it. That doesn't go over so well in Dudeville as it relates to American men. So let's say, just deal with America for a moment, right? That's something many men would be quick to be embarrassed about, not want to say anything about, or take a pill.
I'm going to pop Savannah on real quick.
Sure. Hi, Savannah.
Hey, Savannah.
Hey, sorry, I had to finish getting ready and putting a baby down to sleep. So sorry, I'm a little bit late.
No, we knew about it. So we're on gate number 6, this fear of intimacy, this gate of conflict, and how it starts up the emotional solar plex center. It fires it up. And so we're going to move on to 37 in a moment. But gate 6 is, Jen, I was telling you the story, so I would have this this sort of fear of it. It would start to show up, and there'd be times where I thought something was wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfect. I just don't get to know what happens next. So I'm a generator. I have an open solar plex with a gate 6. It means it's correct for me to be conditioned on how intimacy will actually unfold in an emotional way. An emotional being or another, whatever, will come and connect this gate up or connect up the solar plex somewhere. And then that conditioning is correct for me. And from a young age, ever since I started dating when I was in high school, I remember saying to myself, gee, I would use the word formatted. I seem to be formatted by whoever I appear to be in love with. And then suddenly nothing else will do. No, if Christy Brinkley could come walking by, I'm dating myself here, but, it wouldn't matter. And that formatting took place with every single important relationship I ever had. And by the way, if I was looking around, that meant the formatting was not there and the conditioning wasn't correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that. So I became aware of this. We humans were very smart. What you're aware of, you're probably right. If you're aware
Start to
of
recognize the patterns and things.
Right. So that's what gate 6 did for me. Savannah, you have a gate 6. Actually,
Yeah.
we all do. Jen, you
Yeah,
do.
I was just going to say I have a gate 6 too.
How do you experience it, Savannah?
So gate 6 is actually in my design sun. So it's part of my incarnation cross.
Right.
So I've had a lot of stories with gate 6, or examples, I guess you could say. And my husband has gate 59 on the other side. So we make that chemistry channel between the two of us, the 59 and the 6. And gate 59 in his is in his sun, his design sun. So it's kind of interesting how it created that electromagnetic to where my gate 6 was attracted to his gate 59, which makes that chemistry channel for us. But
you were open to becoming impregnated. That's what gate 6 allowed. Gate 6 allowed gate 59 to impregnate it apparently 4 times, right? You got 4 kids. Oops.
Because isn't it say that like gate 59 and gate 6, they're just like naturally very like fertile, biologically very
All day
fertile
long.
beings?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But gate 6 is the awareness.
It is called the channel. Yeah, it is called the channel of mating. Right? A part of the defense circuit, making children for the tribe. Yeah.
And it's needed. So it's a great big deal. So with all that responsibility, making the children for the tribe, that's a great big deal. No wonder it's either opened or closed. The emotional solar plexus is an awareness center. It's a great big deal. It's a lot of awareness coming in all at once. Am I fertile now?
Yeah. I know gate 6 sometimes, since the name of it does seem kind of like the gate of friction, the gate of conflict. It almost has this like negative connotation that like that you're a person who starts a lot of fights or something like that. But what I realized with gate 6, it's actually resolution. That's what gate 6 is here to learn. It's here to learn how to resolve conflicts in like a healthy way. And so and now that I look back through my life, like that, I've noticed that, sometimes gate 6 can, you could say the shadow side is like erupting or kind of exploding emotionally to conflict, right? But really what gate 6 has to learn is to learn how to resolve the emotional conflict in like a healthy way.
I can see that play out through my life. So yes,
yeah,
through my gate 6.
Jen, you have it defined in your center. You have a defined solar plex. So you've been able to work through these conflicts. Have you seen conflicts resolve themselves where you were surprised? Like your mind might have said to yourself, I'm going to be, I'm going to dislike that person, forever. They're done. But gate 6 had a slightly more nuanced version of the resolution of things.
Not until like my older years. I definitely was more on the shadow side. A lot of my conflict was through emotional
conflict, right?
Oh yes, very. If I was to roll the tape in any scenario, it started with the emotional outburst and being being,
Sure.
But but through my adult life, when I started to gain the awareness, absolutely. I even when I'm in some type of situation, I'm looking for the solution so that I don't have, because arguing, it really doesn't resolve anything at the end of the day. There's better ways to have mature conversations. Yes, it can get emotional behind it, but when you can have a effective conversation, you'll get a lot more. It's more beneficial that way than it is an emotional outburst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd also, the fear of gate 6 is fear of intimacy, fear of being vulnerable, fear of letting people in, fear of being able to trust somebody. Are you going to hurt me? You know, like, are you safe for me? Like, really, like, that's what gate 6 is constantly asking, is like, are you a safe person for me to open up to and become vulnerable? Because they're scared to do that. They're scared of getting hurt. They're scared of being taken advantage of. And so that's why gate 59 is able to kind of, like, a gate 6 person is attracted to a gate 59 because gate 59 is the bonding. They're all about creating connection and
breaking that barrier, breaking
up that barrier that gate 6 people put up to protect themselves because they're scared of being vulnerable and letting people in. And gate 59 has all those qualities of making people feel comfortable, creating connection, resolving the conflict. So gate 6 feels open enough to let them into their life, which leads to intimacy and making babies, right?
Yep. I love saying that. So yeah, that's what that does. And the last thing I can remember, gate 6 would play out in my life when there was emotional conflict. If I was successfully formatted to my partner at the time, which was basically every time, I would very often use this gate 6, and I didn't know I was doing it, but to basically try and use sexuality to dial back the conflict. Dial back the conflict, you know what I mean? And it's like, now that doesn't solve anything.
No.
Technically speaking, unless it was small and minor enough, then sometimes it would go away. But my fear of the confrontation in the first place would be rearing so much that my only defense was to basically, pop a boner, because gate 6 is sitting there waiting to do that. Think about it, though. That's a helpless place.
Yeah. I will also say, like, a situation actually happened this past week, and it involves gate. I'll give you some examples of my gate 6 and my husband's gate 59. So my daughter is kind of getting bullied kind of in the neighborhood, and someone kind of was writing like hate speech about my daughter with chalk on the side of a building. And I knew the girl who did it. And so I had to reach out to her mom. And so they came over to our house. And so there's me, gate 6, right? I'm going to, like, bring up friction. I'm going to bring up the conflict, and I'm going to try and resolve it in a way by bringing it up. But it got kind of heated but then my husband was there, and I noticed he kept trying to calm everything down. He kept trying to, like, resolve the conflict and, make it so there was, like, peace between everyone. But it was just interesting to me, like, knowing all this stuff about human design and, like, me and my husband's charts and how that situation played out. I was the one, I want to get to the bottom of the conflict. I want to resolve it. I want to make sure it's not happening anymore. And then that gate 59 was trying to, like, schmooze everything over, get the conflict to go down. And so it was kind of funny, like, after they left, I kind of just, like, told Jake, I'm like, your gate 59, was resolving, trying to calm everything down.
That's
so yeah.
Did it end up okay? Did you guys at least get your point across, or was it conflictual on the way out the door?
Yeah, I got my point across.
Well, together you and Jake make a fiery ego, a defined emotional solar plex center. You guys have a defined root together, as I recall. It's
no, I don't have a defined. He's actually right here. So Jake, do you want to come around here?
Well, you guys are doing good.
No, he's got a defined root. Jake has a defined root. Together, you guys have a defined root.
Yeah. But Jake's emotionally defined. And so I was like, he would be awesome to be on this show to talk about the emotional wave. But I don't know. Do you want to go through the rest of these gates?
Yeah,
we're kind of talking a lot on gate 6.
Let's start moving on to gate number 30. Unless, Jennifer, anything else to say about gate 6?
No.
So gate 37. the gate of the family. It brings the affection into the world. It creates the type of emotional affection that actually becomes a currency by which the ego on the other side will go to work. And so it's friendship. It's affection inside the family. It wants to have a nice big dinner table. It literally is about being emotionally protective of the tribal situation, of just basically the tribe, the family, whatever. And it wants to keep that community, intact. And its fear is of maintaining or losing the traditions, because the traditions are what keep, they're one of the biggest factors that keeps the society, the community together. There are traditions. There are many traditions, by the way. So every group has many little traditions and some larger ones. And gate 37 is very often the fear that that won't exist. And so suddenly its affection becomes polluted. It goes through its emotional wave. Should I be affectionate towards this? Do I feel friendship towards this? Do I feel friendly towards it? And when that happens, the work of the ego on the other side, gate 40, starts to get disorganized, and now the community is in trouble. And there's an emotional wave about all of that. And again, more pollution if you don't know what that is. Blaming, deal breaking, thinking someone else is up to something, and when really gate 40 just wants to make a deal that I'll do the work if gate 37 says yeah, and I'll provide the affection. And if you have the whole channel, you're literally willing to work for the right affection. And you're always trying to make a bargain about all of that, because tribes are all about loyalties to certain bargains, and sensitivity to that loyalty, and the sensitivity to the need for that loyalty inside the tribe, so that even if you don't feel like doing it, you'll go do it anyways because the tribe needs it. You know what I mean? And you'll feel good about that at the end.
Yes. So Jake has gate 37. So it's kind of making me laugh
You have the whole
as
channel.
you describe it. Hi, Jake.
Hey, Jake. Jake has the whole channel.
Do you guys have gate 37?
Huh? I didn't.
Do
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Jake. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Dan.
So do any of you guys have gate 37 in your charts?
I don't.
No, Jake, you have this whole channel, this channel of community, and very often, as I recall, you have the whole channel, and very often that creates bargains and bonds, and it gives you the ego willpower to basically do the work. So
yeah,
when someone asks you, when you're actually rolling up your sleeves, you're putting all that motorized energy to work. It's a dual motor system, with the right pressure to do the work. But then on the other side, that losing the tradition, that fear of the community breaking up, this is a source of, at times, emotional nervousness. Don't like change. Don't like too much change. Gate 37 says don't change things too much. It's an awareness about don't change it. Don't give my kids no hormones. Don't teach them no crazy stuff. There's too much change in our government. Too much change. You're breaking the deal. So if I needed to know if the societal deal was any good, I would ask Jake. Does that sound like a good deal? And you would have an awareness about all of that.
Yeah, I definitely see it like change has been difficult. Definitely looking into the past, how I've transitioned into different stuff for sure. But I do recognize the motors, like that willingness to work and to double down and kind of grind. But then it always comes with expectation. Like that's one of the things that's like the nice is to understand, like when I'm making bargains and I need to effectively communicate it or approach the work with the mindset of like, I don't expect anything in return. This is just me serving my family or serving, so-and-so. So I think that's just becoming aware so that I can have these conversations in my head so that I don't create resentment afterward. You know what I mean?
Sure. So. That's just, listen, what you just said is basically, we could keynote that into a phrase and make it be the catchphrase for Emotionalics Anonymous without the anonymous part.
Yes, that like.
So Jake, you've recognized the emotional wave. You've seen it now.
Yeah, we actually even use it as a point of humor now. So Savannah's like, "Oh, is someone in their wave again?" And I'm like, "Shut up," you know. So it actually is kind of nice to be aware of it, because then we can joke about it and like see that it's just a natural process, and not to get hung up on things. You know, I think it's been, as a couple, helped us to let go of things and not hold on so tight, and be a lot more, give each other more grace. And then the more we laugh about it, it actually helps out a ton. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So emotional people are waking up. This is exciting. So
the people are waking up.
Well, now 37. When 37 cuts off its affection, think of how hard that is on the other. There are times, Jake, when you're 30, anybody's the gate 37, open center or not, that gate 37 says, deal broke too much. Something's not right. My wave has no clarity. So it's like the soup Nazi, no soup for you, no affection for you.
Seriously. Yeah, and I hate it. I feel bad about, like, yeah, it's like, I'm like, sorry, you're dead to me. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that's also what creates the emotional wave, is he'll do all this work for the family, and he is so giving, and he'll just do things without me even asking. He'll do the dishes, he'll take care of the kids, but then it's almost like if he's give, and then if something isn't, that bargain isn't met back, then that will make him go down in his emotional wave, because his expectations weren't met. And so that gate 3740, the channel, is what can trigger the expectation not being met, is what will trigger the emotional wave. So now we're aware of that now. So now we can see it really quickly. And
Jake needs to get clear. Is he going to re-release the floodgates on his affection? Because Jake, if I'm not mistaken, you love nothing more than to have an affectionate surroundings where everyone is like friendly and the community is vibrant, alive, moving forward, growing.
He likes to people feel welcome, and he loves family gatherings, and that's totally the gate 37, right? That's the gate of friendship.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask, how does this play into like the family tradition people? Because now that y'all are talking about it, I can probably pinpoint the people in my family that may have this. I have 40, so I don't have 37.
Same, Jen. I have hanging gate 40. So that channel that we're talking about, me and him have a compromise in our relationship. So a lot of problems and fights have started because of that compromise channel that we have with each other. So because gate 40 on the other side is like, I'm going to work for the family, but then I need a rest and a break afterwards. I need alone time, right? Because gate 40 is gate of aloneness. So he wants to work and get rewarded for it through physical affection and words of affirmation. But I want to work, and I kind of want to just go be by myself, right? Like, is that kind of how it expresses, Dan?
Yeah, no,
that's how mine expresses.
It's like, if I don't get recognized, I'm like, well, screw you. I'm not doing anymore. Like, you know, I just broke my back for 2 hours doing this, and it's like, no, thank you. Like, fine.
Right. Well, Jake, there's a bargain for actual affection, and I would like you to understand what you're holding down for all of us. You're the only one with the gate 37 here. What you end up holding down for the world, all the gate 37s, they end up holding down the fact, the little toehold that we have on money isn't everything. Affection pays as much as money in many circumstances. Because one day, as we truly transition and become awake and aware and start to really change our money system, and ultimately humanity will be able to do away with actual need for cash green currency. That doesn't fill our spirit, unless we don't have it. And that's because it's required now. What fills our spirit is the right affection and the right bonds. That's really what fills our spirit. Now,
like the money hardly ever motivates me. It's like, will I get adulation? Like, will Savannah be, will she be excited and like blown away? Like, oh, you made X amount of sales or brought in X amount of money. And then her excitement and being proud of me is like, that's like the reward, or, that's like the drive that makes me work longer hours or develop a new skill set to close more deals, kind of a thing. And so
that's what's kind of nice about gate 37 is like, it tells you their love language. So gate 37 is like, I'm so proud of you. Like, good job. You're amazing. Or like, thank you so much for doing the dishes or whatever. Like, that words of affirmation and the physical touch, like that feeds gate 37, right? If you want gate 37 to keep helping the family producing.
If you want to keep milking that cow, you got to keep the compliments coming.
Yeah.
And one got to go one step further. You got to mean it.
Yes, it can't be fake. And I don't want to be like, oh, this is how I manipulate my husband. That's not what I'm saying.
No, right.
Like I'm just saying, like it helps you understand their love language. No. It helps you understand their love language and help them to feel appreciated and what fills their tank,
It's so true.
And that's important.
Yeah. So that's why human design is such an awesome tool. Everyone, go get your human design charts read.
Most amazing.
Are we talking about on 37? Do you want to move to 22?
22, sure do.
Okay.
So there's only 122 on this call, as I recall. Do you have it, Savannah?
I don't, but doesn't Jen have it?
I have the whole channel to 12. That's my manifesting channel.
Yep.
That's what makes me a manifester.
So this channel, the whole channel itself is called the channel. It's the channel of the design of being a social being, or socialness or anti-socialness, because it's either open or not to the social interaction. And the grace that is gate 22, that grace is that grace to being open or not. It's the emotional awareness to be open to the type of intimacy that then, don't forget, these are all love languages as well as practical manifesting, everything else we can say about it, but they're in the emotional solar plexus. They're all a form of a love language. So Jennifer, your love language will always have to hear the right things and have to see that there's a consistency, or gate 12's caution will say no, caution, and it will stop everything. The right language has to repeat itself. And the things you hear in the moment don't always come up as something you need to mention. You're always telling yourself later, oh, shoot, I should have said something about this. I should have said something about that, because gate 22 is listening with an emotional ear. It's the gate of the left ear. It's emotional. It's in a wave. It doesn't have clarity on everything that was said. For anybody with any kind of emotional definition, when you're doing a sales call, put the phone to your right ear. You're going to get all the cold, hard facts. Put the phone to the left ear, and you'll hear the story differently. You might not get all the cold,
really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing. I've never heard that before. So it's like almost the left ear is here's the emotion. The right ear is like logical.
Yes. 57. So 22 and 57, these guys are mirrors to each other. 57 penetrating in the spleen right now, 57 is. So right now I'm hearing this call. 22 is in an emotional wave. So how much do you hear as an emotional wave? You only hear parts. It's later that the rest of it starts to coalesce and come together, because the wave got clarity. Everything went in, but it's just what you heard. It's all there.
So the fear isn't the fear of gate 22 is they feel like no one's kind of like listening to them, right? Or they fear
exactly right. Too much silence, the wrong silence. No one is listening. What I would like to say isn't being heard. You know what? I'm not open. The fear of the lack of openness when they think they're supposed to be open, or the fear of the openness when they know they're supposed to be closed, and all that confusion in an emotional wave.
So it would be like the worst thing to do to someone with gate 22 would be to ignore them, or stonewalling them, or running away from them, giving them the silent treatment. Would that
or lie to them?
Yeah.
What was that?
Or lie to them.
That.
Because they might not hear it in the moment. And then the person that did the lying thinks they got away with it until they hear it a day later and they come back. And as we all know, lies are hard to keep track of. That's why telling the truth is always the best. You don't got to keep track of it. It's just true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But isn't gate 22 also a very good listener?
It's an incredibly good listener. Haven't you ever noticed Jen's listening style? Jen's insane, Savannah. Compared to you and I, Jen's a freaking saint. It's true. It's true, right, Savannah? You and I were blah 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 blah. We're on the fun side, blah 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 blah. And Jen, they're listening, because that's what it forces people to do when you have that whole channel, especially. You've got
when I know, because sometimes when I am listening, if I'm not being stimulated by the other person, my mind may wander off.
Yeah.
But I will bring that awareness to myself that I am not. I'll tell you exactly what happens in my head. I am being inconsiderate by not acknowledging and listening to this other person. So I do make it a conscious effort to make sure that I am listening. And over time, especially with, working with people and mentoring them, because you have to be a good listener to understand. That's where the questions come in, because sometimes what is coming through and what you're saying is a little bit different. And because the one in my profile too, I'm constantly investigating where are they coming from.
Jen, say that's the thing you just said a moment ago. You said what you something, and then what you some came through later. They're different.
Well, sometimes when a person is talking, they may be saying something, but their energy behind it is a little bit different. It's just like when you read a phrase, the way you read it, you may interpret it a way where you can come back and reread it and see it in a different way altogether. So if I'm not clear on what the person is telling me, and I'll just be honest with this, a lot of people, when they do speak, they're not being honest with themselves. So again, the energy behind of what's coming out of their mouth is completely different. The lying, I've gotten really good at being able to pinpoint when people are lying, because what I'm hearing out of their mouth is not what they're really saying. I can just tell by the energy and the body language. So if I'm not clear, then I start asking questions so that I can get clarity, because over time I have run off of assumptions. And we all know what assumptions is. You make an ass out of you and me, and I don't like that. So
but Dan, also wouldn't gate 22, like if someone has gate 22 or their partner has gate 22, would their love language to be just sit and to listen to them express their emotions and to hold space for what they're feeling and for them to share it? Would that be kind of would that be, yeah? Dan?
I can say yes to that. I'll use Dan as an example. I love Dan, even though that he may not hear everything that I say, but I can, when there's been moments. I had something recently this week that I found out something, and he's the first person that I called, and I went blah, 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 and he just let me do that. He listened. Even if he retained the information, it didn't matter. But in that moment, he held space. I was able to get it out, and that meant the world to me.
Oh, okay. I love that you shared that. I didn't realize that was gate 22, but my little son, he has 3 gates repeated in 22. So I'm like, I gotta learn about this gate. And I love that you said just kind of almost like quality time, sitting and listening to them speak, right?
Listening to them speak and letting them listen to you reply.
Yeah.
Because it demonstrates, emotionally speaking, that you absorbed what they were speaking.
So reflective listening would be huge for them.
Yeah.
A partner who can do that.
Yes. The 2212 will not be happy with, oh, yes, dear. Oh, sure. Yeah. No.
Because you're blowing me. That's an example of what I can pick up that's coming out of your mouth that you don't mean. Is I know that you're just blowing me off. So why can't you just tell me? I don't feel like doing it at the moment, or whatever the reason is.
Whatever the truth is.
Yeah. So it's about attentive listening. They have to be present and give attentive listening.
That's the romance of it. That's the romance language of gate 20. Tell me, sing me sweet songs. Tell me what I want to hear.
Oh, I love this. This is helping me so much. I love this. I love what we're doing right now.
Think what the voice does. The voice speaks out our passion. You guys hear me all the time. I prefer to do my calls as a phone call. I want to lean into that vocal quality of that person. Jen sends me videos of whoever we're about to do. She'll send me something so I can stare at their face and listen to their words while they're talking and get intuitive awareness as to whether I'm going to chew them up when we read about them or I'm going to give them some kudos, right? We do our Wednesday nights. So that's all. It's open to the love language of that which we know of as passion and romance. It's 2 people. It's a thing.
I have a quick question. It's an awareness that just came in. So you know how when we started part 1, we recognize that the way that I speak with that emotion compared to how y'all are speaking, is different. Do you think that's coming out of the gate 22 to 12,
I know it's
that
coming
channel?
out of gate 22. I mean, it's.
I can't help it. I've had so many people tell me that once I get going and the information is channeling out of me, I do sound preachy. There's times that I'll say internally, like, oh my God, it's coming out preachy, but I don't intend to do that. But there's such emotion behind it, especially stuff that I'm really passionate about. You can
Jen,
really feel that emotion.
Think about it. Think about what happens with all of the emotional waves. They're worn on our face.
Oh, my face. I already know.
You can't really hide it. You know what I mean?
No.
Any conflicts that have
poker face.
Any conflicts that have gone on happen quickly because it shows up quickly.
Yeah. So also the gate 22, or maybe even the whole channel, they would need deep conversation. Just this light surface light, it has to be deep, it has to be meaningful. Well, and they'd probably get annoyed when people wish these shallow, deep conversations. Is that right?
The shallow surface deep, we'll call it surface deep. That's the 36. The deep is 22 for sure. And the practical deep is 37. Give it to me practical. I got to feed a family. But it's still deep. They're all
Which one is 37 you said?
37, we just did 37. It's the gate of affection. And
okay, that's the practical one?
It would be, it's like we got to feed the family.
I have both 22. I have the whole channel on 22 and I have 36.
Yep. And you have 40, and you have too. And you have 55 as well.
Yeah, I have 55.
So there's a lot of.
Do you want to move on to gate 36?
Yeah, let's move on to, and Jen, can you check the queue? Did Meg Starkweather by chance try to get on?
Yeah, she's not on. I've been checking.
So she hasn't tried to connect, click the link. All right. Meg, if you're listening, I tried. She just texted me, get me on, she said, with an exclamation point.
She's no, I don't see her anywhere.
Meg, I emailed you and I texted you. Hang on a second. Meg, text me the email address you want me to forward it to. So let's move on to gate 36, unless there's something else.
Nope.
So there's a lot of 36 in this crew, and 36 is just scary to everyone until they really come to understand it, because it carries us along on this freaking tidal wave. Right? I mean, this is the human experiential way, and it is a love language, and it wants the intimacy that's fired up in gate 6, but it wants it on the surface. And with that kind of heat that goes on and the feelings that show up in gate 36, with that kind of heat, the next thing you know, the other person wants it deep. And gate 36 is like, no, I'm still just here on the surface. I love this experience. I'm moving through this experience. It's like experiencing the fire hose, so to speak. I would love to hold one of those fire engine fire hoses once, and that's on the surface. And I'd love to feel that experience. It's not very deep. It's right on the surface, but it's a deep experience for me. I've always wanted to hold on to one of those things and see if it makes me, get thrown all over the place like they do on cartoons,
Yeah. So gate 36 is in my earth, my design earth. So 2 of my incarnation gates are attached to the emotional solar plexus, but it's open. But oh my gosh, I was actually talking to you this week about this gate 36 and how it's this fear of inadequacy, fear of failure, fear of not meeting other people's expectations, fear of not meeting my own expectations of how an experience is supposed to be. That has plagued me my whole life, this nervousness over new experiences, teaching yoga. If I've never taught a certain group before, I'm nervous before I go in and have that experience. But through doing the thing, it gets rid of the nervousness. It gets rid of the expectation or that fear of failure, right? That's how it works, isn't it?
It's always getting through the experience, finally making your way through to the other side of that experience. You feel the progress, you feel the sort of completion, you feel the that it came to fruition, that it's you finally got to taste it, you finally got to feed on it, you finally got to have it. In fact, it's sort of like hunger. It's like you just ate the meal. Now you're full.
Mm-hmm. But it's like they create new experiences, but sometimes the new experiences kind of scare them and give them nervousness, right?
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it. Sometimes I want to punch Gate 36 in the face because it's like.
Well, I now that you're saying that, I recognized it because I did I got on a round table last month with a group of ladies, and we've been doing videos, since the beginning of the year, like twice a week. And so it's not uncommon for people to see me on the camera, but it was a new setting, a new group. And so when I got on, I got really nervous, and I asked myself, I was like, why am I so nervous? What is this? Why am I getting clammy? Now that you have said that, I'm like, okay, I can now recognize that play out through a lot of things. And it does even with workshops or classes or courses that I'm putting together. I can't tell you how many I haven't released yet because of that, probably too.
Yeah.
Fear of inadequacy, because it's an emotional nervousness. So let's think of how this plays out in our world, especially on a global stage. This is, swords get pulled on this. Cannons fire on this gate. They fire on all of them. Who am I kidding? But here's where
Gate 36 can start lots of problems because the nervousness it feels about an event or something coming up, world event wise. Is that what you mean? Like Gate 36, people were probably flipping out when COVID first came out. Would you say?
And all during it. And all of us that were watching people get stupid over COVID, we were starting to get nervous over what's going to happen to us. Right? Yeah. Those of us who didn't fall into it, it's like, don't you try to make me, don't, blah, blah, blah. I'm not running an experiment on me.
Yeah. So like Gate 36, it's like, what would you counsel someone who has it, or if they have a partner who has it? Is it just kind of be patient with them, help them work through the nervousness of new things, right? It could be like buying a new house or a wedding, right? They're going to have a lot of nervousness over the new thing, right?
Avoid trying to numb it out. That's first. Avoid numbing it out. Scrolling, drinking, alcohol and other things, drugs, whatever, whatever, overworking out to numb it out. That would be the one thing I would, whatever, at least working out's healthy, generally speaking. So, but you can work out too much,
Yeah.
TV.
Would it also just be, what was I going to say? Just pushing through the fear, pushing and just doing the thing, right?
Doing the thing. Yes, right? Doing the thing is so important, because ultimately that's what you're here to do. If you have a Gate 36, you're constantly moving between inexperience and experience. And when you're inexperienced, think of how nerve-wracking that is.
Yeah, sorry, you go, Jen.
Yeah, what I've learned to recognize over time too is that the expectation, because I learned to stop placing expectations on other people, but I place a bunch on myself. The expectations always, doesn't matter if you roll the tape through, equal disappointments. Anytime an expectation is placed in there, it's going to lead you to a disappointment regardless. So I try to recognize that I am placing expectations on myself. And that helps me kind of diffuse, because I'm like, why am I placing expectations? And fear, when I recognized what fear was, it's false expectations appearing real. Yeah. And you can face everything. You can fuck everything and run, or face everything and rise. And so I just recognize just what it is. But that expectation, I can see that I place that upon myself a lot with a lot of what I do, because I get trapped in perfectionism. But and I think also too, when it comes to the learning, because I can recognize that not knowing into the knowing. I do that better when I'm by myself.
That makes sense.
If I don't know something, I make sure to do it by myself first, or with somebody that I trust a lot. That way I can go out there and do it. The first mentor that I had building a coaching program, part of what she recommended was do videos every day live for 30 days, do a 30-day video challenge. Well, if you're not used to being on camera and you don't like what you see on camera and doing all of that, it makes you nervous. So I can't tell you how many hours I spent behind the scenes getting on camera just so that I would be comfortable seeing myself on camera, because that's where I got stuck, with seeing myself.
Yeah. Would it also be like gate 36, don't put them on the spot? Oops, sorry. Not putting them on the spot to do something that they've never practiced before, right? That would probably really stress out a gate 36, right?
Yes.
All of these things, and not to mention, then they're going to experience the wave over all of that. Now, if it's in an open center, there's no real wave, except most people with it in an open center are around other people that define it. So there's other people's wave. So if you have this in an open center, it can just get very confusing, because suddenly you have feelings about it. Suddenly you think you're fine. Then you have more feelings about it. Those feelings aren't yours. You're being conditioned by someone else. They're the combination of what you've had as an experience and what the wave is that the other person is putting into you. So it can get terribly confusing. If you have it in a defined center, think about it. Before I move on to find that terribly confusing part. So every 36 in an open center inside of every politician or leader inside of the planet, and there will be many, because there's only 64 gates, so there's going to be a lot of people with that in an open center. Those folks, who knows what they're willing to do? Don't give them the keys to the magic red button. That's for sure. No way. I wouldn't allow.
We have our guest on. I think they finally felt
it out. My very first teacher, Maggie. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Dan. You know what? This is crazy, but the appointment I had at 3, I tried to change, and I just got a message saying she didn't get the message and she's here. So
Can you wait a few minutes, or do you need to go? It's either way is all good, dude. We're just going through.
I'm not sure.
Why don't you go check in?
I've been trying to get in for the last half hour. Like, the message didn't come through, and let's see what I got to do with that.
Well, we're about to move to gate 49 because we've done. Savannah, did you have anything else you want to say with gate 36?
Oh, actually, no, yeah. I have gate 49. My husband has gate 55, but none of us have 30. Do any of you guys have gate 30?
I don't.
Her message says she can come back.
Yeah, we can do. We're going to move to 39, but before I do that, just if there's anything, since Meg just popped on, Meg, is there anything you might want to say about gate 36?
Well, my unconscious drive is in gate 36, and I got a lot to say about that. I have 2 activations of the 49 unconscious Saturn and Venus, so it's quite intense for me. Both of those are in the 3rd line, so I would say those 2 gates are probably my biggest challenges in life.
Sure.
Same. I put mine up too.
Turn it around. So, sorry, but I've got to text this woman and see if I can buy a little bit more time so I can.
You do that. So we're moving on to gate 49. And by the way, everyone, this is Meg. Meg, this is Jennifer and Savannah. I sent you their chart last night.
So many amazing things about you, and that you're you're human design genius. So I'm so excited to meet you and listen to you share your wisdom and your knowledge.
I just, Dan, what I would like to know is I formally changed my name. I no longer am Starkweather.
Oh.
Even though I thought about doing star weather reporting, which I may still do. But as I don't have anything online yet, I'm, at some point when I start to get going, it's going to be.
We'll change that for you, Meg.
Yeah.
So 49. Moving on to gate 49. There's a lot of 49 in this particular room. This gate of principles. So this principles and this fear. It's literally revolution. The I Ching called it revolution. So 5,400 years ago, they called it revolution. But these principles, this fear of nature, that the values will be rejected by the tribe. The values indeed may be, but it's almost like they can't quite tell what might be rejected. It becomes almost a fear of God itself. What if God rejects me? Acceptance, rejection. 49 accepts you into the tribe, rejects you out of the tribe, helps create the marriage bond, decides where many of the resources will go. It's principles. It's all about the principles. And because it's literally, it's part of the human way to come up with the principles. And it's on the other side of 49, its opposition is gate 4. So gate 4 is all about logical formulas. So it's logical to have the formulas that are made up of good principles. You know, this is a big deal. We find that a big deal. And if the principles and the bargains and anything start to get broken, it just like gate 37 will not only withdraw affection, it'll cut your head off. You know, gate 49 is the gate of the butcher in a way. It was one of our first interfaces with the mammalian life forms, because they all have a gate 19 and humanity has a gate 49. And so we've been able to lay our hand upon the animal and then do the mystical thing that gate 49 wants to do, which is honor the beast. And what did we do after we sacrificed the beast? We honored them in the sky. We painted them out in the stars in the sky. Many, the bull, the fish, the frog, the this, the that, the spider, all of it. We've taken all of our animals and drawn them out in the sky. And this is very much the mystical work of 1949. 19 pressures approach, and 49 are the principles of acceptance or rejection.
So did they have access to that before? Are you talking about astrology?
Astrology, just painting in the sky, generally speaking. How about cave paintings? All of it.
Okay. Well, when you say painting in the sky,
I mean tic-tac-toeing stars to make a figure of the beast that they just killed, because 49 put its hands on the beast and felt its life drain away. That's no small deal. When was the last time any of us killed a beast before we ate it? It's not something we do very often, you know, so it feels a little squishy, and 49s tend to be the ones that can actually handle that. That's you know.
So gate 49 is in my Mars. So it's what I can be kind of immature about. And I've heard some people say it's like the divorce gate. So it's like they reject your principles and it's like, you're dead to me, you know, like you're out. Like, I don't care about you anymore. You're out of my tribe, you know, and that is like, if someone kind of hurts me or rejects me in some way, I'm just like, unfriend, you know, like I'm not talking to you anymore. Block, you know, so that's how it manifested for me. I don't know, how is it manifested for you, Meg?
Well, I have the whole channel. It's called the Channel of Sensitivity, and it's pretty extreme. And I'm sure Dan can vouch for, you know, when things go awry, I do chop up heads.
Yep, it's true.
But with my voice, you know? and I can do it at a distance, and I don't even know I'm doing it, but I have the whole stream, which goes from the 19, the 49, the 37, the 40, and the 21. And, you know, the 21 is where my Mars is. And so it's the whole stream is like it's like the dragon's tongue, as far as I'm concerned. And so I,
you experience the wave, right, Meg?
Well, my life is the wave, but it's a very focused wave. It's a tribal wave. It's not just a little of this and a little of that. It's a tribal wave, which is a ratchet wave. And that ratchet wave can really catch you by surprise when you're in it, because it's like this. And I would almost say like the dynamics of it, because I have my conscious Saturn, or what's called the Punisher, is in the 19, and my unconscious Saturn is in the 49. So both my Saturns are in that sensitivity, and it's where I get punished over everything. My conscious one is 4th line, and my unconscious is 3rd line. And it's also in the exact same place, also in the 49, is my unconscious Venus, which can be a very difficult place to have when it comes to rejection.
Isn't you, if you have the whole channel or just 49, you're deeply, deeply sensitive to rejection because it's a tribal channel. So if someone rejects you right out of the tribe, like that's affecting your survival, your sense of survival.
Well, this is, interestingly, I'm on my second Saturn return just now. I just turned 60 this year. And my first Saturn return, on the very day of it being exact, is when I met my kid's dad. My kid's dad is someone who I should have rejected, but I did not. I tried to gently escape, but I did not. I ended up sabotaging my whole life by conceiving a child 2 days before I left to go to Italy to do my research of my own design. That's still my life work and still not done. That was the beginning of, that was 30 years ago.
That's a lot of punishment, Meg.
And well, the whole 30 years of my being on the roof, I'm extremely sixth line, has been this punishment. And the bizarre thing about it is that 1 year prior to this, a psychic warned me. She says, you're going to be tested by many men. And if you make the wrong choice, you're going to live 20 years of scandal. It was all about healing something that had to do with my mother's rejection, my mother's inability to touch, because the 1949 and the 3740, we are touch people.
Touch.
Everything's about touch. My mother was mentally ill, couldn't even hold me. You know, I was put in a corner somewhere. My need for touch was so great that when I began to date, you know, because the 1949 and the 3740, they're basically the channels of bonding. It's the whole tribal bond is right there. It's, you know, where you're, you know, you're entering into a relationship, the marriage bond, the whole thing. And I've got both channels, just zoop. It's like the core of my activation. And that all, the mouth of all of that is the 21 in my, with where my Mars is, which is about objectivity. And so I've got this entirely third line emotional system, which is about bonds made and broken, banging into things, making mistakes. You know, everything you can do wrong, you're going to do it. And so the first 30 years of my life were every wrong relationship you could possibly imagine. But then right at the point where I'm going on the roof, I meet killer whale relationship. I don't know what it is. I had my first reading with Ra in his, basically it was, I did holistic analysis with him, and I did a bunch of other stuff. And the very first reading he did, it was like a general reading. I think it was a chart reading class that he did before the holistic analysis one. But he starts out, you know, he's looking at my design. He goes, you're going to have kids with the wrong person. Like, check.
Right.
But just from my design and all of that, you know, with the Punisher right there in the channel of bonding, and this, like, the problem was I could not reject. My capacity to reject, my anger mechanism was so repressed. I couldn't get angry. So someone, you know, I my first relationship, I was beaten up. And I gotta turn this off. Sorry. Beaten up. And I couldn't even fight back. I could not even, and I'm still that way. Like, I can't hit someone. I can't, whatever, if they're hurting me, all I do is talk. It's like that 21 starts speaking, and it's, I'm pouring out truth, anger, this is what's going on, stop, blah, 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 but it's not being heard. No one hears me. So it happens all the time. And because I can't get to that voice. And in my design, all of that emotionality, which is, I don't know, it's what I live every single day is this like machine of the crisis. My focus is actually not tribal. The focus is basically where your moon is. And in holistic analysis, your unconscious focus or drive, it's called your gravity. And that's in the 36-3, which is about transition, transformation, darkening of the light. Everything goes wrong and you somehow transform in the middle of the shit, right? And that's always sitting there as my solar plexus. And it's all about crisis, and nothing happens without the crisis. Okay. So I had this experience once, you're talking about the 36-2, where, I was probably, I don't know, I was maybe 3 or 4 years into human design. Too many people calling me. I don't know what to do here. I don't know if they're the people. Anyways, so I had just lost my job in New Zealand as a senior research scientist because I had basically told them that the science was wrong and they didn't want to hear that, and it was going to put the guy who got the grant in trouble. And so they just dumped me like I was a danger. I'd come back. I didn't want anything to do with that place ever again. And my life was just sort of in this peaceful place for a minute. My kids were suddenly old enough. They went out with their dad, and I had my first time of being just alone. It was summer. But this was happening. And then all of a sudden, one day I got up and it was like my body was in crisis. I'm like, what's going on here? I was feeling this crisis energy that had nothing tethered to it. There was nothing going on. Oh, I hope I didn't. I answered that phone call. Anyways, there was nothing going on. There's absolutely no crisis in my life at that moment because I had just been through the crisis. It was, I was sitting there at the end of the road with the crisis. Everything had changed. I come back to the US. I was here. My kids were, everything was a mess, but I was at peace. And there was nothing I needed to do. There was no crisis going on. But so I looked up, okay, well, what the hell's going on in the stars? And there was Jupiter, that expands everything, had just moved into the 36-3. I was like, oh my God, it's sitting there on my moon and it's giving me all these crisis feelings, but nothing happened in my life that I could point it at. So it was like this.
Meg, this is amazing.
We're going to show you what this feels like. And so I remember sitting there, I was just like washing my dishes. It was a beautiful summer day. I love summer. And I was alone for some years. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, Ra talks about this. Like, this is what happens when you have a transit. But he's always talking about it in the sense of he's got an open emotional system. And when a planet hits something that activates him, then he feels what it feels like. He feels what it feels like to be emotional. But I'm having the opposite. I'm having this like, this is something I experience every day of my life and all this kind of stuff coming and going. It's because it's a very active part of my design. But here it is being amplified so that I can watch it just as energy.
Did you experience, Meg, did you experience the wave from all of that? Did you experience the starting to go down, the nervousness or the concern or the joy of starting to go up?
No, it didn't happen in a wave. It was just because my 36 is just a hanging gate.
Right.
Or it's not hanging. Well, it reaches across progress. The 35-3, which is called collaboration, is basically my holy grail because it what bridges my split. It reaches across my split. And all my focus in my life, where the mind goes, is on your split. Okay. So my design, my focus is the 45-5, which is leadership, and the 35-3, which is collaboration. So everything that I do in life is trying to create this collaborative leadership thing, because that's the entire focus of my design. That is like the holy grail of my design that will solve all my problems.
Right. We got to move.
Really, it's just the energies of that, but I try to create it. And so there was no wave in this experience. It was just, I am just vibrating this 36-3, which is like this crisis energy that's ripe for change. It's like, okay, I'm just about done with this, but I don't know how to be done with this. I'm going to just like freak out because that's what my nervous system's doing. And then somehow I'm going to survive it. And there's going to be an answer. This progress is going to walk into my path, you know, whether it gets downloaded or it's a person or whatever it is. But
so Meg, we have to move along because we're going to run out of time. So we did 36, we've done 49. The principles of actually in your story, the very principles you would have needed to basically experience that more fully is something we can speak to later. But if we move along from 49, the next gate in line is 55. And this is the gate that's under mutation.
Dan, sorry, I got a little bit sidetracked here, but the 49, because I mean, it's where my Saturn is, the 49-3 is, it's about revolution. And when you're unconscious, no, you know what? It's my Jupiter, my unconscious Jupiter. Sure. But basically, I've realized that 49, I have it in the 1 and the 3, and it's about revolution. Okay. And right now we're in a revolution, and Saturn is in the revolution. It's like, it's just revolution is happening. But I had this recent realization as to why I get thrown out of everywhere, because I walk into a room and my aura is a revolution, and people don't like that. It's like, get her out of here as fast as possible. Do not let her open her mouth.
Right.
Do not, stop this dragon. Okay. She's going to cause a revolution if anyone actually listens to her. So
that's one of the ways it can express out in the life. As we were finishing up with gate 49, that's one of the ways it can express.
Yes. And I was also going to share, my husband's dad has gate 49 in his son. And he was a very stern, like, if you do this, this is the consequence. Like, he was a big spanker. And I've heard some people say sometimes that's how, if you have hanging gate 49, they can be kind of like, this is if you cross me, like, this is the punishment, you're out of my life. Like, and so sometimes I just thought that was interesting to hear. Someone made the association of gate 49. Sometimes as parenting, they can struggle. They have it hanging. And depending where it is in the planets, with just being kind of like stern, it's black or white. You're either with me or you're against me. And if you're against me, like, you're out, type of thing.
Just the spanking is about touch. It needs to be touch. Like, that's why.
I see that.
It's like you got to hit something, because that's what it is.
And his dad was a huge spanker. Like, that was how he disciplined, because he had hanging gate 49 in his son, and it was like, if you broke a rule, it was spanking. So yeah. I just thought that was interesting. Someone made that connection, and then my husband shared with me his upbringing, and I'm like, oh, that's totally how his dad was. So it's just interesting.
Well, the blood that can spill when gate 49 is not synchronized with its surroundings is profound, because it is about revolution. Now, most revolutions are mundane. I have a revolution in the house and I change the dish detergent we're using. That's a small revolution, but some revolutions are not so small.
I've also heard Joe Rogan has gate 49, that is his first, like, he comes off a lot like that. Just very
revolutionary.
Yes.
Yeah, big time. So let's move to gate 55. Spirit. How is spirit going to fill? How will the revolution turn out that fills our spirit? Because gate 59, this gate of the spirit, and it's not quite the spirit of the self, it's sort of like this. Well, it is the spirit of the self. 25 would be the spirit of humanity. But it's still, gate 55 is about abundance, the abundance of your spirit, and it is the spirit of humanity. If gate 55 is polluted and stays dirty and in an emotional wave that's always sad, the planet will always be emoting and willing to basically hurt the other and blame people, and we'll still have all of this stuff. So when the spirit of 55 goes low, the sphere becomes emptiness. It's like not having the right passion. It can even cross over with 28 in a sense, because they're mirrors to each other, not having the right purpose to my passion. I can't get anything, and it's emptiness. It's emoting. It's the fear that your spirit will stay empty. Now that's a big fat mind problem. Jake, you have the whole channel. How do you experience that, brother? Jake's in the background.
Yeah, I had him come back over here. I'm like, you got 55.
We might need a whole nother podcast for that. Yeah,
yeah, I get you.
When things get kind of shaken up, there's a lot of fear that creeps in, like, oh, this is the way it's going to be forever, sometimes. But
he has gate 55 in his earth. It's part of his incarnation cross.
The left angle cross of spirit, 5-1. Look at that.
Because Jen, you have gate 55 also, but it's in your. Do you know what planet it's in?
It is in, hold on, Mars.
Oh. So what Mars is what?
55-6. It's in a 6th line too.
So for Jake, since that's in his earth, gate 55, when his cup doesn't feel full, or like he's working towards a purpose or a meaning, he can go on a wave and get carried down and sad when he feels like there's no purpose in his life. And I've noticed that is what triggers his wave, because he has the whole 49-55.
39-55.
39-55. So, right, Jake? You said that's how it feels? How does it feel?
Yeah, and that 39 provokes things too. So there'd be times, Jake, when correctly you're provoking wherever the spirit isn't by jabbing at it, saying things, and then saying nothing. Offering nothing else. No. I'll provoke you by sitting still and not even participating, or I'll provoke you with little jabs, because you're trying to provoke the spirit awake to get the cup back half full again. And because that's where it belongs. It belongs in the cycle where it sees when it doesn't feel half full, so that when it gets back to full, that it's like, that's the meaning we're in. And when humanity starts to see this, our spirit can collectively rise. And then we can get that big trinity I'm always talking about. The spirit is in line with the love, moving in the right direction towards communion. And suddenly we get those 3 things rolling, and then humanity can be all better again one day, maybe.
Yeah, because isn't that the gift of the 59 is like if they're in a good mood, if they have that passion in their life, they help kind of give that to others. They can help lift people up. The 49-55, they're good at like putting other people in a good mood. But if they're in a bad mood, they're going to jab and make everyone else in a bad mood. Right, Dan? Is that what you mean by the provoking?
Yeah, well, they can. Or listen, actually, that's only to the people closest to them that they trust the most. So luckily, Savannah, that's only with you. If Jake's in a bad mood, and if Jake, if you go down on a wave and something isn't right and we're all in a greater place, it mostly won't be so much jabbing at people, because you're cautious about all of that. It might not be practical, but it will be lots of silence. This lack of provocation becomes in the lack of participation at times. And it's all triggered by a lot of this sense of emptiness. So we need our 55s to point towards how do we feel full. And Jen, actually, you're going to be a good one at that, because if yours is in your Mars, that's where your child is. That's the immaturity portion of it. How your spirit comes out isn't always the most mature way. Sometimes it comes flying out like a fire hose. Sometimes you're learning. Sometimes it's who knows what. So,
but isn't also gate 55? It's like they can't help it. There's going to be some days, right, where they're like, my glass is half full and life is amazing. And then there's other days where it's like, my glass is half empty and I don't want to do anything and there's no purpose, right? It's like they can't help it. They can't always stay high.
No, they certainly cannot.
I do get that way.
It's that going down that gives the awareness of what really is back on up. It's where the creativity of going back up on the wave will come from. The creativity and the wisdom and the smarts and the intelligence, the emotional intelligence comes from the downside of the wave that gets reproduced in the world and contributed back on the upside of the wave, or at least when you get back more to level.
Yeah, but isn't it when gate 55 gets on the low of their wave, it says that fear of emptiness. So sometimes they will use food and emotional eating to fill them up and make them feel satisfied and whole. And so I thought that was interesting.
Jennifer, you got something to say?
I said brownies.
Brownies.
Would you say that, Jake? Like emotional eating? Sorry, he's like a guy, and I'm like, you emotional eat?
I do a lot of things. Yeah. When that cup runs empty, I definitely emote. Savannah will attest to this. It's almost like I have a man period like once every week, and she just laughs at me. She's like, "Oh, here we go again." But it's like, yeah, you work, 6-7 days straight, and then you kind of feel like, okay, I want my cup full. And then if I don't, like, if Savannah's like busy or doesn't like pour into my cup, I'm like, I emote. I'm like, damn it, put down your phone. Make me feel special, woman. Like, get over here and talk to me, And then, so then she just kind of like laughs at me, and then we just kind of talk through it. And then a lot of times, what I do is just need to vent about all the ways I'm not being seen. And then she's like, then she gets a chance to be like, I'm sorry, you're doing a lot. And I'm like, yeah, give me a hug and make me feel better. And then it's like, okay, Jake's world's right again. And then it's like another 7 days of grinding. And then it's like, here we go again,
It goes on like a weekly cycle. It's so crazy. It is like almost clockwork.
And it's like gravity, because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it this Sunday. I'm not going to, like, Sunday is the day where it always comes to a head. I'm like, not today. I can't take it anymore. And then I start like emoting, and then she just laughs at me, and then like I just get pissed, and she like laughs at me while I'm mad, and then
you make me sound so mean.
No, you're not mean. You're funny. Like, but yeah, it's like I didn't do it last Sunday, so I'm on a 2-week stretch right now, so this is good. And then today I haven't done it yet either, so.
Sorry, I don't mean to like make light of it or make fun of it. Like, the wave can be hard, and
just understanding it helps you navigate it. And what I like is that instead of it lasting like a week or whatever, it's like when you know what it is, you can shrink the time frame and then reset yourself.
Yeah.
And especially when your spouse understands what it is, then you're not like put down or resented for the wave. Because in the past, when we didn't know what it was like, dude, what's wrong with you? And then it was like, I'm like, well, I don't feel seen or heard. My cup's empty. But then, I don't know, there'd be resentment on both sides and the unwillingness to help or give. And then it would stretch out longer. But now it's just like it happens and we're through it. I emote or whatever. And then it's like.
Yeah, but he used to think something was wrong with him, because there would be like days where he would feel like his cup is half empty and he's feeling down and depressed. And he would be there for days, sometimes weeks. But now that we know this about his energy and his chart, and he has this gate 55 in his earth, he's able to work through it, and he doesn't stay down in that low for weeks and months at a time. He's able to work through it. We've tried breath work, right? Like breath of fire. That's actually a certain breathing modality that we use that targets the emotional solar plexus. It helps kind of move that energy through the emotional solar plexus. So there's been times he's done breath of fire for like 3 minutes, and he'll notice he'll have a shift in his emotional state and his mood. And there's also like yoga postures you can do that target that emotional solar plexus to help it work through and move through those emotions.
Sex helps too.
Oh my God.
Meg, are you seeing this?
Do you have
we're all adults here. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But Sunday shows are for families.
Sorry, guys. But I will also say,
Meg's about to say something. Meg.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you go.
I was just wondering, do you have a creative outlet?
I was just going to say that.
Do you have a creative outlet of some sort?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I wake up early in the morning, and like I journal and map out goals, and I think about my kids and the wife, kind of what they need, and I try to identify like scenarios of how I could set that up to do an activity or give them some time. But then I like to map out like businesses. Okay, like what's the goal with this, and what else would I like to add to it?
He's a 5-1, and he has the logic circuitry up in the head. The 63.
The reason I'm asking is because that channel, it's the individual. wave, and it has the melancholy. And so although we sort of think, okay, well, we all want to be on the upside of that wave, if you realize that the downside of the wave is actually, it's like the well of your creativity. And when you embrace that, as soon as you're in that down mode, it's like that's the fertile ground for whatever your creative outlet is. And if you actually embrace, it's like, okay, I can dive into this melancholy and it's going to produce the fruit of my life if I embrace it and thank it and welcome it, rather than saying this is something I want to get rid of because there's something wrong with me and this and that. But that emotions, see, we're in a world where the emotional motor it's a challenge because it creates all the wars, it creates all the problems. But where we're transitioning to, and a lot of people are already working with this, is first realizing that the emotional system is not meant to drive us into do whatever it is. So like we don't have to always be in an up state in order to get anything done. It's actually meant to be an awareness. And as an awareness, it's meant to tell us about ourself, our uniqueness. And in your individual wave, that wave is going from that perspective of, the cup is always the cup, and it's half full or it's half empty, whatever it is. It's just this perspective that's going on. But when you embrace the fullness of the cup and begin to use it as your gift of creativity, it becomes your wealth. And the individual wave, basically, as an individual, people have a lot of individuality. Your life goes from this kind of plateau of boredom where there's nothing happening, and then you end up with this spike. And this spike, it just comes and it goes, and then you're back to the boredom again. And so that may feel like the empty is like boredom, like there's nothing happening. But that's just how the emotional wave of the individual works. It's you don't know when it's going to spike. It's just going to spike. And then after it's done spiking, it's over. You don't actually even have to get fulfilled for it to be over. It's just going to be over when it's over. And it's nice when you're able to use it. Okay, yes, you can express your feelings and it helps your relationship, because that's the point at which you're actually going to communicate something, or your creativity is going to emerge in like, hey, I feel this, and if we tried this, or whatever it is.
Guys, pointing out the actual creativity, if you think about it, Jake and Savannah are the living embodiment of what we're always trying to get to the children, for instance. Here's a couple who's learned to see a few things, and in just some simple awareness, which wasn't simple beforehand by any stretch, and now is being made simple, everything sort of tightens up, and they're actually living out this awareness of filling their spirit. And the boredom and the minorness of it all, if you think about it, you guys have accomplished nothing minor at all. What you've accomplished, nobody else on the planet except for a very small handful have ever really accomplished. You guys are technically leading the charge in certain ways. You are a model of what it is to be an awake human design married couple, because you basically get through those things. And Jake, you don't dive into the knowledge. Jake ain't there studying the book. Savannah does, because me and her freaks out. But regardless, Jake, you just got a general sense of it all. You got enough. If you need to know, you'll ask, and you experience the emotions that me and Savannah will never understand, because we're not defined there. And that gives you such clarity, and you guys end up becoming a model of what it is to be the spirit of a relationship.
Yeah. Well, what I would see is that because you have that ability to kind of watch what's happening with your wave, as a man, you're able to actually recognize that you do have emotions, because men are always pointing the finger at women. It's like, oh, she's the emotional one, blah, blah, blah. It's not me. Yeah. But when you're able to see it highlighted, and especially when you guys have been able to observe it enough, so you're seeing the cycle of it and you're seeing the patterns of it, and you're really becoming aware of how it really is a core part of you. But without this knowledge, or without being able, having a, a lens to look at it through, you would just, you think there's something wrong with you, or whatever, but you have this window to look into what it really is and become aware of yourself as an emotional being, because people don't realize it, that men are actually more emotional than women, but they're so sensitive because they have to be. It's like, if you're the biological, component that has to kill things for us to eat and go out and conquer the world, it has to have that protective bit of being extremely sensitive to the feelings of the other. And, in order to be a good warrior or a hunter or whatever, we have to shut all of that off to be a good man. But that's not what a real man is. A real man recognizes the gift of his extreme sensitivity, which, in most men, it becomes this fear of your sensitivity. And, for someone to tell you that you're sensitive, it's like the worst attack in the world. But the truth is, all men are very, very, very sensitive emotionally.
It's true, Meg. Think about how
if
that
they
plays
weren't,
out.
they'd be rapists. It's like you have to be sensitive enough to the vulnerable beings in your life that something draws you back before you do damage. And so,
Yeah.
and then being able to
Some
watch
people
it in your
do not
journaling,
see
it
it as
sounds
like
like
a
you're really,
weakness.
really making a lot of, you're really, really growing a lot in your relationship from just
seeing that. Jake, what were you saying?
awareness. Yeah.
Oh, well, I've talked to Savannah about it before, like, experiencing it, but then, being authentic with her and saying, okay, here's how I really feel. Sometimes you feel vulnerable, but I've kind of seen it in the past as like a weakness, and it is something I still struggle with, because you want to be, me Tarzan, and you don't want to be vulnerable or perceived as weak. But
sometimes
so
emotions are
that's
viewed
kinda,
as weakness or like feminine or
being
in our
being
culture.
sensitive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's the
but
stupidest thing I ever heard, and I agree with you. I know exactly what you mean. At my age, I finally decided that's the stupidest thing ever, and
But
so
I love human design because it would tell you, no, like nothing's wrong with you. Like you're meant to, I mean, we're all emotional beings, but you're meant to have an emotional wave. You're meant to have these highs and lows, and there's nothing wrong with you, that's that way. And so
yeah, there was some points I thought, I'm like, am I bipolar? Or and then I would get mad because sometimes, like, I had just like learned I was like the #1 sales rep in the company in the entire country, yet I hit melancholy, and I was like, what's going on? I just had this big achievement, and often my melancholy shows up right after like a big achievement, and I can't really pinpoint. I'm like, what the heck? Like, why am I sad, or why am I like low? And but so I really appreciate. Is it Megan?
Meg.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you said, because Dan actually went over just how you did in my very first reading. He talked about how the melancholy can be used as an asset, and your most creative times come right after, or as you rise up out of it. And I was like, so because I used to hate myself for that. I'm like, why is this happening? Why do I feel low? And then I would like, kind of, I guess without better words, just say, kind of hate myself.
Harden your shell.
And
go ahead, Jen. Jennifer.
So I'll chime in on all this because I have gate 55. And I do have, it's defined, so I do experience the emotional up and downs. Most of my creative artistic expressions have come out of me from my lows. So when Meg asked you what, do you have a creative outlet? Having a creative outlet has saved me. That goes into, when you listed all that stuff, I'm an entrepreneur. That's what I listed first. No. Get something like a hobby, woodworking, mechanics. I did needle. I'm learning how to do needlepoint, painting, something like that. Because when you're in your wave, it'll give you something to get your mind off of whatever's going on. you can create of that, and you'll start getting that clarity flow come through. That's what
Does
I've
cleaning-
had help me.
You're right.
Huh?
Does cleaning house count as creative?
Yes.
Cleaning like
Yes.
therapy
It does.
for him.
No, yes, it does. Hands,
Like,
motion.
It's
I get a
beautiful,
lot of
you know.
satisfaction out of like reorganizing a room and like getting
Yes.
my laundry folded
That,
and
yes.
systems set up in bedrooms. I'm like, why? I'm like, am I like, do I have too much estrogen in me, right? Or I don't know, like, what's wrong with me? Because like,
I do
No,
that
dude,
too.
that's
Putting flowers out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like,
creative
oh, that's a
space.
nice rug. Like, oh, I can't wait to get this for our kitchen. Or, oh my gosh, those are the nicest pots. Like, I would love to cook in those. So it's like, yeah.
Cooking.
Yeah, you like
Cooking is an
cooking.
extremely
cooking.
creative.
It calms him, and cooking helps him.
Yeah, cooking is kind of therapeutic for me.
Mhm.
What about, do you do any kind of exercise with your legs?
Well, I lost 30 pounds at the beginning of the year, so I was like really into exercising. But now I wake up early and I'm like, oh, this is my alone time. So I like to study and set goals and stuff because the kids get up for school and then it's like the day just gets crazy. So
His job
Well,
is very
that's
active.
when you
though.
have that channel coming from your root to your emotional system, you have a lot of energy that's coming up. It comes up through your legs and into your emotions. And you need something that's either walking, jogging, something where you're moving your legs to move that energy on up through. So it doesn't just get stuck in your whole root area.
That makes
And
sense.
if you have something like if you spend that, like I walk, if I can't walk, I'm dead. Because I get so
agitated. Walks, and
Mhm.
that's like I love that. Like that's actually what I was doing this morning. I was like, I need a walk, so I took Bodhi out for a walk. So I do, and then I do door-to-door sales as well. So I'm walking a ton, and I can tell a shift when I'm out and I first begin to start working. I'm like, oh, I start to feel better just moving house to house for some reason. So maybe that.
So is it that way every channel connected from the root to the emotional center, all three channels? Is that
the three channels that go from the root to the spleen and the three channels that go from the root to the solar plexus.
So exercise, walking, that's important for them.
Well, it's lower body exercise. It's moving legs.
Oh, I love that.
Because your root chakra is basically where your sacrum is. It's like the base of your tailbone. And all of that energy comes up through your legs, goes through the bone structure, and it gets stuck. It's like Kundalini energy from the earth is coming there, and it gets stuck unless you move it. And so if you guys do Breath of Fire, I don't know whether Yogi Bhajan's got something that's with the legs. I think he's got a few things that are where you're lying on your back and you're bicycling.
Savannah's a bit of a yoga master, by the way. So certain.
Yeah, I was doing a yoga teacher, and I got
you want
doing
something
yoga
simple, mindless movement of the legs, whether it's riding your bike. Walking is the best because it actually balances the hemispheres of the brain. And just you go out for a 40-minute walk and your whole life will change. It's like whatever's bothering you, your brain, your mind will work it out while you're walking. You just have to be able to kind of let go and walk and let go while your legs are, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, I get so much clarity going out for walks. And if I look back in my history, I've done hundreds of walks with my sister, and then also mountain bike rides where I just go pedal around. But I always put in something like a book to listen to. And then, I come up with a lot of answers to problems just going out and walking. So that's cool that you validate that. I'm like,
one of Dan's previous office bosses there, she was really emotional, but she didn't exercise. And I was trying to get Dan to take her for a walk in the morning, and I was like, just get her an exercise bike so she can sit there in the office and pedal away while she's doing her whatever. She's just a mess. That emotion stuff, it just builds up. And if you're splenic, it builds up in a different way. You get really agitated and whatever, but just having something that moves the energy, transforms it.
Margaret, but Meg, by the way,
Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah,
I
so
love that advice. Sorry.
So
Go ahead,
Savannah and Jake are 2 projectors with 4 generator children.
Wow.
We're being overrun.
See,
Yeah.
I'm a projector and I had to raise my children alone and exhausted.
That'd be so hard.
Exhausted.
Yes. Yes.
Jen, let's go.
My daughter's a manifester, my son's a generator, my kid's dad was an MG, and it's just like surrounded by generators, but I was doing it all myself.
Dan, I'm going to have to pop off here shortly just to let you know.
Yeah, let's go full screen, Jennifer.
Okay. Well, we haven't finished gate 30.
Well, I'll talk about gate 30 real quick, and we can just go full screen anyways, because I've got it memorized.
Well, 30 is kind of a different one.
Yeah, gate 30, feelings and the fear of the fates. And it's really that the fate won't let your feeling take place. So it's sort of a fear of magic in a way. It's like, what will happen? And so gate 30 has this desire. It's all part of the desire stream, and it's all part of the hunger for the new experience. And so gate 30 it's in the emotional center. It's called the clinging fire. It's got a lot of feelings, and it's ready to erupt with those feelings right out gate 36 to gate 35 to go ahead and get full and do it all over again. So it's part of that whole stream. And so gate 30's fear becomes the fear that I have this great thing. I have this feeling. I have this beauty. I want to do this thing. I want it. I need, I feel, and the fates are going to get in the way. The light's going to turn red. I'm not going to make it on time. Whatever it is, the fates will get in the way. It's this sort of, in a sense, Freud would call it an illogical fear. You know what I mean? I call it an awareness fear, like all of the fears. It means you're on the lookout for what's going to be there, and plenty of other things. So 30 is sexualized. It's got a lot of energy. It's willing to have fantasy come pouring in on it. It's a bit like a fire hose. It can go through all the feelings and then suddenly get this emotional crash wave. Big fat crash wave going, and the people who have this need to understand so that they can really start to recognize what you guys were saying, Savannah and Jake, that you can see it and live through it. So that's gate 30, and it's very experiential. Wants to experience the desire for experience, desire for experience, and hunger for it, and fantasy comes in on it from the root center, gate 41. It's a very potent thing. It's moving us. It's part of our experiential path. It's part of the thing that's getting slowed down by the upcoming mutation. Part of the reason for humanity's confusion. This whole stream is becoming affected by the coming mutation. So that's what I have to say about gate 30, and I think we made it through all the gates of the solar plex. And this is a long one, Jen. I already know we're approaching 2 hours, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We got to.
Sorry, I have an appointment. That's why I had to. Wrap it up.
It's time. It's time to go. This was great. We made it through the gates, and the importance of the solar plex center. And anybody who watches this 3-part series is going to come
lots of inform. Well, we could even. I mean, Meg, you offered a lot of great solutions, and as Dan knows, he always hears me say, "I'm always out to find the solution." It's great we're bringing awareness to this, but just like the walking or getting creative in something, finding, when this energy comes up, because it's unavoidable, it's going to happen inside of us. That doesn't mean that in those moments, especially when it's like an icky feeling, we have to stay in that icky feeling or allow it to pass. There are things that we can do: breath work, yoga, taking a walk. I love walking. Walking is one of my favorite things to do. And it's the simple things.
It's the simple things, my Jennifer.
Well, walking is it's our natural qigong.
Exactly. And I love qigong.
It's gentle rhythmic movement that moves energy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get it when we're running or we're exerting ourselves, but it's the walking. You can do it without anything. And if you walk barefoot, that's like 1,000 times better.
Right. Meg, are you able to stay on a little bit? Oh no, that's right. You got to get rolling, Jen. So
after.
Yeah, you won't be able to stay on.
We'll have to have Meg back on for another show.
Yeah, and Jen, we could have a little chat after hours. I mean, after this, when you get done with your appointment, Margaret, if you're available, I'm dying for you to wash off on everybody I ever knew. And by the way, Savannah, can you tell at all the difference between the emotional voices and yours and mine? I keep spotting it. I think they froze.
I think Savannah froze.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
That's all good.
Well, you know what? For some reason, I have such a love of PHS that I always want to find out what someone's environment is, you know, to sort of bring in some little tips for their life, for whatever it is. And when you get into the holistic analysis stuff, if you have a resonance in either your environment or your dietary regime, and it's resonating to an emotional, in this case, it was an emotional thing, it brings a whole nother level of something you can change and actively do to make that bit work better. So I was going to ask what his environment was.
They don't know yet.
They don't know. Okay,
we haven't really gotten into much of that.
Yeah.
But we will. So, hey, we had a great episode. This is a long one. It concludes our emotional solar plex talk, and everyone got to meet Meg. Thank you, Meg. And
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Jennifer, we really did the distance here on this one. So I know we got to roll, and thank everyone for showing up. So I guess button it up.
Yes, everybody. Thank you for showing up. And you guys know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow to the show. And the announcement for Wednesday is we will be doing
Alex Jones.
That's right. Since she mentioned Joe Rogan earlier, that's who popped in, but I knew that wasn't right. Alex Jones. We're going to be doing Alex Jones on Wednesday. Let's just find out what makes him Alex Jones.
What makes that man Alex Jones? Yep.
So hope you guys tune in. Make sure to go check out the links down below. We do have a new website up. There's a booking link to book a session with Dan. If you have not already, please make sure you go and do that. And check out what else we have going on. Sign up for that newsletter list. And yeah, we've got lots of cool things coming to you. So with that said, thank you everybody who tuned in. Happy Sunday, and y'all go have a beautiful and blessed day.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is great.
Bye now.
Bye now.